You always gotta pay to play. Don't ever forget it. Welcome back to JB Reviews. As you guys know, I have this ridiculous 2024 Chevy Silverado 3500 dually on 37's. And a lot of people have been asking questions around this truck. And I'm gonna answer a few today. So, number one, do I regret it? Absolutely not. I love the way the truck looks. You guys kind of know that by now. That's a question that a lot of people have been asking. Do I still like the look of it? Now the other question is, how is the ride? Right now, the ride is absolutely amazing. However, that's about to change today because I've had some issues with my truck. Yes, you heard that correctly. I am having an issue with running these 37s. So you guys know that the fitment is great. There's really no noticeable issues there. The only one that I showed you guys a long time ago was that the truck does slightly rub on the frame right there. Now, if you do want to do this, if you were to run a spacer up front, you probably can do a 10 millimeter, and that probably will move the tire enough to miss that, because once the tires start to wear down like they have, you won't be rubbing anymore. But that's not the issue I'm having. As you guys know, out back, these tires don't really ride on these sidewalls here. When I first got the truck back, these were at about 62, 63 PSI. The fronts were at like 60. And the good thing about it was not throwing any low tire pressure warnings. But obviously, you do want the tires to run evenly on the tread. So I decided to air the tires way down. Now, right now they're at about 35 PSI. And if you run tires this low, yes, without fail, you're gonna have a tire pressure light. There it is. Truck looks so good. And so far, the painted pieces on the front end are holding up pretty well. I don't know if I told you guys this or not. I did not wrap any of these parts up here that we painted. And yeah, they're not really chipping up at all, which I would have expected. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and check out where the tire pressure is. I don't know if I mentioned it yet. I did just air these up to 60 PSI. That's what it was showing on my monitor. But let's see what the tire pressure is saying. It's saying 56, but I bet you if I were to drive the truck down the road, it would adjust. But I'm gonna go ahead and air up the back tires really quickly, and we're gonna discuss a few things. I just got done airing up the tires. So if you do have a dually, you're gonna need a tool like this to air up the back tires, because there's a valve stem. It has like a little ball on the top of it. You just push this on it and air up the tires, works great. Now, this is what I use for the outer tire here. You gotta use a little bit of finagling, but you can get this on the valve stem, but you have to go behind the tire and through the spoke here, and you can pretty much air that one out. Now, last time I took it to the tire shop, they did add these extensions on here. I don't think they really helped me out really. I think they made it a little bit harder personally, but they worked, so I'm gonna keep them on there. So all the tires are pretty much aired up probably above 60 PSI. So let's check out what we have. So really quickly, tire pressure on the front shows 75 and the rear is at, 70, interesting. So I may have to air up the front a little bit more to make sure it doesn't get a tire light. So let's go ahead and put it in accessory mode. Oh, darn it. Okay. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll just air those up to like 63 or 64. Last time I did this, the tire pressure was probably like at 62, and that was probably the threshold. So I'm not going to do it today. I'm going to run the tires because I'm pretty sure the tire pressure is actually a little bit higher than this. And once you go driving, it'll go up a little bit. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And then let's explain this stupid thing that Chevy did for 2024. I'm driving the truck right now and I'm actually kind of surprised. I don't really feel a huge difference in how the truck feels in comfort. Now, when I first did it, I could tell a difference with the lower tire pressure, but right now, I don't really notice. I'm driving in the city, and there's not a huge difference between the 60 and 65 PSI. So right there, okay, there it is. So if you go above 60, so if you're running at 61 PSI up front, and it looks like you can run down to about 59 in the rear. So that's nice. So at least Chevy does allow you to run down pretty low on the tire pressure. On the rears, that is, but those are at 70 PSI max, it said, and then the fronts are at 75. I don't know why they ran the front so high. Front should be like at 65, honestly, but hey, you know, they're the engineers. I don't build these trucks. But if I were to buy a dually truck again, I would never buy a Chevy, and here's why. Number one, for 2024, they locked out the body control module for tire pressure monitoring system. You heard that correctly, guys. For 2024, GM basically strong-armed their customers to not be able to change the tire pressure. Now, obviously, if you get a tire that runs at 80 PSI, if you air them down to like where I'm at right now, they will ride a little bit better. But like I told you guys, I did not air down for better ride because these trucks ride so much better than Ram trucks in their form, even with this type of setup. I aired down so that the tire patch was even out back. Now, I know people, a lot of the haters are gonna say, I told you not to do that. Well, shut up. Listen, even if you have the stock tires, you don't really ride on the outer side of the tire from what I saw. And I only know this because when I was backing up with dually at a dealership onto the curb, on the pavement, it kind of spun. And I could see where just the inner part of the tires were being ridden on. But once you add weight to these trucks, that's where they get that even patch. So if I were to hook up my fifth wheel, drive down the road for 3 hours, I'd have an even patch on the road. And when you run these bigger tires like this, they're so much wider than the stock, you can really see that you're only riding on the inner tire even more so. And don't let anyone lie to you. Anytime you modify a car, you gotta pay to play. Every time I've ever done any modifications to any car, and I've done a lot of them, you always have to purchase something else that you weren't expecting, something. I remember when I added like a couple hundred horsepower to one of my cars in the past, I had to upgrade the clutch within like 5,000 miles because I burned through it, and just other supporting mods. Just, yeah, it was crazy. So just keep that in mind. And with this truck, running these size tires, it's just a huge increase over the stock. And yeah, you're gonna have to recalibrate the speedometer. You're gonna have to figure out tire pressure stuff. So if I were to do this again, if I were to get a dually, I would 100% get a Ram because there's a lot more support for those trucks. And if you go to AEV, for example, they have like this thing you can plug into the OBD, and it can basically recalibrate the speedometer, and I believe it actually will change something in the transmission too, like to adjust for the shifts. I think that's what it said. I don't know, I can't remember now, but it does do the tire pressure monitoring system too, so you can reprogram that as well. So there's a lot of great things on that side of the house. Right now, Chevy trucks don't really have a lot of support here. So yeah, if I were to do this again, I'd probably get a Ram. But if I were to get a dually, I'm definitely running big tires because these trucks look so much better with bigger tires. I just think they're a better fit. And even when people see me out, they always ask me what size tire they are, and I'm always like 37's, and they're like blown away because it just looks so much smaller in person. Now, when I first got the tires and I was putting them up against the truck, I was like, holy crap, these might be too big. But they really did just fit snugged on that truck. So yeah, I hope you guys liked the video. Hope you learned something. Unfortunately, if you do want to run big tires, I would recommend 35 by 12 and a half if you don't want to deal with these types of things, because 37s typically have 65 PSI, and that's just a problem, you know, with these larger tires. There's not a lot of different tires that have that 80 PSI. I don't think I've seen one yet. I think 37 by 13 and a half is the only one that gives you 80 PSI, and that's just way too wide. I mean, really, 12 and a half is too wide, but I like the look, so hey, it is what it is. But be sure to stay tuned, subscribe to the channel. I am going to discuss the dually build, kind of going over how much it costs, all that good stuff. So be sure to turn your notifications on, that way you don't miss that video. And yeah, you'll have an idea of how much it cost to black out that truck in 2023 later.